You're on mute, Shelly.
Oh yeah,
we can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Oh my God.
Oh, now we can hear
now
you.
we can.
Listen. All right, so you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Something happened just now. I'll tell y'all after the call when we were going live that something just popped up. So thank God we made the prayer before we started. This is a very special episode. For some reason, some things on my side are now frozen. So I know we're supposed to have this conversation. So welcome everybody. This is a very special episode of Mrs. Pie. We're going to be talking to some amazing folks about faith at work. And I really think this is going to be blessing a lot of folks. So shout out to everybody who's on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitter, and especially those who are watching on Parade Deck TV channel. So I'm just grateful for every single person you see here in this room, and I'm just hoping that this production goes without flaw, because already we're getting the fights. But we're gonna have a really good conversation. So first off, I try to give flowers before I start any of my calls, and y'all please don't forget to love, like, and share the video. But huge shout out to Audrey and Makisha and Carmen and Nate and April and Keisha for being here and for sharing their journey. So how's everybody doing? You can still hear me? Are we all good?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So I feel really bad for those of y'all who are going to be listening to this on Spotify and all the podcasts, the audio version, because everybody in here looks amazing. I just picked that up. Y'all look so good. So thank you for showing up today. So I'm going to jump right in. So when I was telling people about the episode, I said I wanted to really focus on our spirituality and professionalism. What does faith at work look like? And so the idea was to just talk about how we can encourage ourselves, each other, and folks that are going to be watching about how you kind of bring deeper meaning into your job, into purpose into your job. And we're going to share some of our own personal journeys. But I wanted to start off by why do you think it's important for us to even integrate our faith? And I'm going to throw this question to Keisha. Why do you think it's even important? I know. They ain't no cheat notes.
Oh, you can see my pen. Okay.
Yes. Why do you think I'm going to go to Keisha and then I'm going to go to Nate afterwards. Like, why do you think it's important for us to show up with our faith at work?
For me, I believe that it's important to show up with our faith. It's just a part of who I am. So it's not like I leave it at home or I turn it on or I turn it off. It's just, it comes with me wherever I go and I carry it with me. And I do know that there was a point in my career, since we're specifically talking about work, or even in my life, where I said, God, if you're not in it, I don't want it. And it had to be that way, because what I understand to be true is that no matter what you do in life, no matter what you pursue, whether you're pursuing a career, profession, you're trying to start your own business or do something creatively, you're going to hit roadblocks. You're going to come up against enemies and obstacles in your way. And if you don't have God on your side, if God is not for you in that endeavor that you're doing, if he has not called you to that, then you're inevitably going to fail. You're inevitably going to fall. You may get so far. You're only going to get so far without Christ. And that's my feeling. And because I feel like when God is in it, when God is with you, no matter what you're up against, he's always going to give you the tools to succeed, to get over those obstacles if he's for you in that endeavor.
Wow, that's powerful. How about you, Nate? What are your thoughts?
I don't know. For me, it's one of those things where I used to struggle with this part, because you always told as a church person, this is how you carry yourself.
Yeah.
But then in real life, you don't carry yourself that way. You try to be in these spaces a certain way. If you make a mistake, I used to beat myself up a lot. Oh my God, then something happens and you continue to learn, and it says be the same whether you in service or you out of service, but you're always at service.
Mm.
And so
Mhm.
because of that, I'm always at his service. And then like the role that I'm in right now, the job that I have right now, it's ethics. So I have to carry myself ethically because there's a lot of eyes and visibility on what I do. So I
Yes.
use my guide me ethically because I'm like, okay, I don't want to be seen as a man who's not of who's not of good character and of his words. So for me, it's important to walk in that space and just accept, you know what, I made a mistake with this, but it's important that my character, that people not judge my character and say, well, he made a mistake, but I know that was not intentional.
Mhm.
I love that. I love that. So I was thinking about purpose. This is something we talked about before. And again, I'm not sure if y'all are hearing feeds that I'm hearing all kinds of voices.
Yeah.
Oh my, and there's nothing in here. It's crazy. So
Wow.
yeah, there's literally there's nothing in here. So so I wanted to ask Audrey and Carmen about purpose and what does purpose look like? Is it different for you at the job, and how does that play out for you when you think about purpose and faith and your walk and things like that? So I'll go to Audrey first, and then I'll go to Carmen, and I'm gonna go on mute.
So purpose for me, whether it's in my personal life or at work, is to always try to do my best, right? It's one of those things that I grew up with, as a child. Whatever you put you put out there to try to do for yourself, you always give it 100%. And when it comes to my faith, I mean, I started, following the Lord when I was young. I can remember, being at a Pentecostal church, just as they used to say, tarrying for the Lord, right? Just waiting for the Holy Spirit to hit me. And, even in that, I gave it my all because I knew coming out of that he was going to help guide and direct me in whatever it is that I needed to do, and giving, again, 100%, whether it's at home being a mom or whether it's at work. It's really important because people see you, and when they see you, you want them to see the Holy Spirit. You don't want them to see Audrey, because as Keisha alluded to, it's not something you can, there's not a light switch that you can turn it off and turn it on. So my whole purpose is to just have people see who I am, and the God that I serve is real, and there's no switch. And whether that is at home or out in the workplace or even just at Walmart, whatever it is, you still have to show up and be the person that the Lord has made you to be, and take that with pride. You can't shut that down. You gotta, ooze that the faith and the grace that he's giving you in everything that you do. And that's kind of my thing now. So
Wow, that's powerful. How about you, Carmen?
Am I off mute now?
Okay, we can hear you.
Okay. So for me, and some of you already kind of know a little bit about my journey, but I actually separated my purpose as a Christian with work, because I was raised, a lot of people of color are raised, you go to work, you put your head down, you do a good job, you do as you're told. And so it didn't dawn on me to focus, to put my work and my personal life together. I was at work to work, and then I would go home. And it wasn't until I felt this void. Like I kept asking God, what is my purpose? And like everybody already alluded to, you can't separate who you are as a Christian with who you are at work or at Walmart or, wherever you go. You have to walk that Christian walk 24/7. And I would say I'm still on the bottle when it comes to my purpose. Like I haven't gotten to the steak or the meat yet. So the moment that I actually accepted that and understood that and started to walk in that, I started talking about God more freely, more openly as it applies at work. There was no filter. Like I was talking to my boss about a challenging situation, and she made a comment, and I said, yes, I had to go into my prayer closet, right? It just comes out, naturally, because you have to let that light shine. You have to let the God in you naturally come out. So when he said, do not be ashamed of me, I always thought about, like Peter denying Jesus. But when you don't just acknowledge and walk in who you are as a Christian, it's almost a version of being ashamed, right? Because you're not walking in who you are as a Christian. So I don't think you can separate your Christian. It's one and one, because God put us, he knew where we were going to be in every single point of our lives, right? So every moment is an opportunity to make a disciple. Every moment is an opportunity to let God shine in us. So I don't think, you can separate those two.
Wow, that's absolutely powerful. Go ahead. Was somebody gonna jump in? Okay, so Makisha and April, I was thinking about what are some of the challenges, because again, now we're saying this as folks who have been through some things, y'all. So it's not, just bear that in mind. We've had experiences, we've had trials, we've had tribulations, we've had great days, we've had terrible days. It doesn't mean that everything around you is automatically just easy peasy and we're smiling all the time. And it doesn't mean that we're included in all, every single group. It just doesn't, it's just not that case, because I think we walk in a different path. But I wanted to find out a little bit more about, like, what are some of the lessons you've learned, or in the way that you showed up, as a woman of God, right? As a Christian, what does that look like in terms of maybe the challenges? And again, just for the opportunity for us to help somebody who might be going through it right now. So I'll throw it to April and then to Makisha, and then I'm going to open up to everybody.
Okay. Am I off mute?
Yes.
Can you all hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
I would say for me personally, some of the challenges that I've had just with faith and career wise, piggyback kind of similar to journey like Carmen. I grew up very religious in a very religious household, where it was the same thing. Parents, you go to work and work is work, you're receptible there and everything. But then when you're home, you go to the Kingdom Hall and all these other things, right? It was kind of like separate, right? And then when I got when I went over to college and I started seeing other people's journey within Christ and how they were open, right, to it, it kind of, to me, that was like, okay, wow, well, you can be open with praising God and not just kind of reserved with it, right? So that started opening my eyes, especially in the workplace. And then I think it was maybe a few years ago where one of my peers at work would always speak, about God and so thankful for how he showed up and everything for her. And I remember looking at her and I was like, and looking around like, is anybody, is anybody looking at her, strangely or anything like that? And I'm proud of her for doing it, because I feel the same way. But again, my whole life I was taught to be reserved about it, right? Yeah. So with having those lines kind of intertwined and meshed together, what I've learned is it's okay to be thankful for God. It's okay, like in a meeting, to be like, you know what? I'm here only because God gave me the strength to be here. And everybody's like, yep, I understand that. It's okay to speak freely and just let it flow from you, I've learned, because the more that you kind of hinder yourself and try to hold it back, it always seems to backfire on you, right? So one thing, the main thing I've learned professionally is to, how people say, like, let go and let God. Like, let him show up in the situations that you need him to show up with. Like, everything is already planned for us by him. We just have to let him take the lead. And especially this year in my career, I've learned to do that a lot, a lot. I've had to step back and be like, you know what? I'm not in control of this. Someone else is. I'm stressing myself out for no reason when I just need God to just veer my life the way it needs to go, professionally and personally and everything else. And it's led to less stress on me, but it's strengthened a lot of relationships as well. But then it's also kind of made me question other relationships too, right? Professionally and personally, just with how it's perceived. So one thing I can say is just be true, to yourself. You may think people are looking at you, quote unquote, crazy for speaking about God or thanking him or, playing your music in your ear and they hear gospel or whatever, but it's okay, because that's your path, right? That's your path. You shouldn't have to hide who you are, spiritually from anyone.
That's awesome. How about you, Makisha?
Well, as you guys know, I had to learn that my service, even at work, is unto the Lord. So every day, learning that kind of puts me in a different headspace, because I know I don't have to worry about trying to get accolades or trying to impress, because I know Jesus is my work, my excellence is to him. And so my focus switched to trying to get accolades and make certain people excited and happy and stuff, because God is the one say, I will, you pray in secretly, I will reward you openly. So I had to get to the point of maturity to know that man doesn't control my destiny. God has a purpose for me, and I have an assignment. I'm on the assignment, and once the assignment is over, my next purpose is going to be in place, because he says, I order your steps, right? The steps of a righteous man is ordered by God. So my steps are ordered. There's no accidents. There's no coincidence, because God had already ordered my steps. Even in my mistakes, he already gave me a way of escape, even in that, because he says when the enemy comes in like a flood, right? He will raise up a standard. So even in the midst of my situations and things that I thought that I was in control, and he's like, girl, bye, you are not in control. I am steering this ship. I'm just allowing you to ride this ship. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm the one, I knew you before you was in your mother's womb. I ordained you then for a purpose that you said yes to. So you are going to walk in this assignment. Even though, trust and believe, some days I'll be like, you know what, God, I'm going to try my own path. But then I'll be like Moses, if you're not going to go with me, I don't want to go. I don't want to go if you're not involved. If your glory is not going with me. Now, I might be like, oh, I'm tired of the situation or tired of everything going on. But from the heart of it, it's like, okay, God, I'm gonna stop playing, because if you ain't going, I already know if you're not gonna go with me, I don't want it. I don't want the success. I don't want nothing if it's not orchestrated from you, because I know it's gonna take me away from you and it's gonna be a disaster. So if it's not from you, close it, lock it, secure it, whatever you got to do, remove it, whatever you have to do, because so you can protect me and keep me safe. So that's what I had to do.
Wow, that's a whole sermon, y'all. And so I'm just gonna open it up for just to talk about our experiences and things that we might have gone through, and we're on the other side, we overcome it, or maybe there's situations that we're still in. I was telling Audrey and Makisha before we went live in the green room that my lesson. So we're in the month of August, and it's new beginnings. And just this morning, I was like, woohoo! Here we are at 7:18 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm like, oh no, there's another lesson coming. And this one is about trusting God. And I'm not ready for it because I can't, And so we're just talking about all of these things that happen along the way. And I know in my heart and head that it's there's a pruning season also that happens. So that's why I wanted to make sure I said that, look, all of us are on a different path in our journey. We're not saying this life is easy. It ain't. It's easier, to be honest. It's easier to be out there doing YOLO and FOMO or whatever, right? And not caring about, what the Lord thinks or thinking about what happens after you leave this earth. Quite frankly, that's what a lot of people are doing. They don't want to care. You don't want to think about, being subjected to or under anyone's or God's authority. That's why people kind of go crazy and do whatever they want. But when you truly accept the Lord, you can't go back. Even if you want to, like your brain, your heart, your soul, you cannot go back to the life you came from because you understand what the path like. So I just wanted to hear from y'all. Just chime in and share your experiences and tests and challenges that either you've gone through or you're coming through, or just kind of share with our audience.
Oh, I came off of mute, but I saw Keisha's hand go up, so I didn't know if you were about to say something.
You go ahead, April.
Okay.
All right.
Well, just with not even balancing, your faith, right, with work, but just in. So personally, my testimony is, like I said, I grew up very religious, right, and everything. And there was a point in my life, like around 2017, 2018, where I was one of those YOLO people, right, Shelly?
Yeah.
Where I was like, you know what? I have a good job, I have my place, I have money, I'm having all these kind of things. I'm making decisions like just willy-nilly with it, right? Just going off of feeling and want, right? And not what God had for me, right? So I totally went off astray. My life like turned into a huge mess is the understatement, right? And then one day I woke up and I was like, something has to change. I need to go. I moved away from my family, you know, my faith base, everything. And then one day I was like, you know what? This isn't working for me. Something has to change because I'm not happy. I'm sad. I'm confused. I'm lonely. I have no guidance, right?
Yeah.
And it's because I veered off that track of, you know, letting God lead me where I need to be at. And as soon as, when I tell you all, as soon as I made the decision to find my faith again, to at least try to start living my life the way that I need to live it again, I got time to spend with my grandma before she passed away and become like her best friend. I literally gave up everything in my life, and I came back and I found a job. I got another apartment. I literally was able to just furnish and rebuild my whole life materialistically, but faith-wise, I had my family and my friends there with me and guiding me. It was like, hey, God loves you. Come to church with us, come to church with us, come to church with us. And finally, one day I was like, fine, I'll come to church with you, right? And it literally changed my life because I had veered from, you know, actually going to church to where I veered from, you know, only thing I need is my Bible or something like that, and I'm okay. That I wasn't okay with just that. I needed to be around like-minded people in order to steer me back on my path. One bad apple can spoil the bunch, okay? If you're not there, it's true. And the way like God has blessed me since then is imaginable. I met my husband. Like I was at a point where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to live my life for myself. And I remember I wrote on my refrigerator things that I wanted in a partner in life. Wasn't even thinking about a husband at the time, but things that I wanted in a partner in life. And I had it right next to a little card. At the time I was going to Passion City Church. And it was a card from their 2020 kind of convention, right? Like a seat of a space, like, hey, pray for these people in this section. So I had that on my refrigerator. And one day I was like, you know what? I'm just fed up. I'm going to write down all the things that I need in a partner. And the first thing was they have to love God. They have to have a family. Like faith then, like before it was all these other things. But when I started just putting my faith back in there and being around like-minded individuals in my family that God led their lives and everything came next, he started to lead my life the same way. And so I just had so many blessings since then, and I haven't looked back. I want him to keep leading me.
Wow. Thank you for that. Go ahead, Keisha.
Gosh, I don't even know where to start. You know, when you think about from the time from when I was conceived to now, you know, I'm going to be 45 years old next month. I'm starting my birthday countdown, and it's like the journey has been so rich. So much has happened, has led me to this point. But I guess I will start by saying, you know, I didn't grow up in a super religious home. My mom took us to church on the Easter and the holidays and things like that. But I had a praying grandmother. I had a praying grandmother, and my grandmother, you know, really introduced me to Christ. I remember being very young and her bringing over my first Bible to the home. And, you know, there were times when I was growing up where I felt mistreated. My parents were I have very young parents. My mom was only like 16 when she had me. And she married my stepdad, who's my adopted father. He adopted me when I was 12, and he's my dad. I call him dad. He raised me. But this man he's an incredible person. We had a lot of turmoil growing up. I honestly, you know, now that I'm an adult, it's hard to raise a child that's not your own, even when you adopt them. And, you know, I think he struggled with that. But not only that, he grew up, and it's important for me to tell you this, but he grew up in foster care. His mom left him when he was young, and he just and still does this very strong determination to make it in life. You know, he's got like 4 or 5 degrees. He's working on his PhD. He's retired. He's an incredibly successful man. Incredibly successful man in spaces where people don't look like him. And you can imagine the type of aggressive energy it took to get there and being his daughter. Okay. Um, and I'm no weak person either, you know, and I don't like to be controlled. I have a mind of my own. So, you know, I ended up going to live with my grandmother. We actually, with his job, because he's an engineer, we ended up overseas in Holland, and I was trying to finish school. And when I was about 16, 17, I went to go ahead and I just went back home to the States, and I lived with my grandmother, and I finished out school. And, you know, of course, when I moved in with her, we were going to church. And that's when I really started going to church on a regular basis. And really, really just feeling God. Like even growing up, I felt God's presence. I felt like he was there. I knew there was a presence, right? So when I went off to college, I would pray when I wanted something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't like a steady relationship with Christ. And I remember when I finished school, wanting a job, wanting all the things. And I was living in New York. I'm from New York, living in the city and wanting all these things. And I used to write down my prayers and put them in my bra and walk around. Like I used to do like little spiritual things like that, and not really having a relationship. Again, it was praying when I wanted something or when I needed something or when I needed God to deliver me. And or when I was going through something deep, but it wasn't a consistent relationship. And there was a point where when I was getting ready, I was thinking about moving out of New York. I wanted to leave the city, and I was thinking about different places, and I landed in Georgia. And one of my goals was when I moved to Georgia, I'm going to start going to church on a regular basis. I'm going to start working on my relationship with God, because I realized that some things from my childhood were following me into my adult life. And that was like something that I understood about myself. Like I was struggling with my mental health, and I realized that it was because of things in my childhood that I had not processed, that I had not healed. And so I did that. I came to Georgia, and I did begin working on my relationship with God. And it was just, gosh, I don't want to take up all the time, but the journey has just been intense. It's been an amazing journey, but when you start opening up doors and I've been through so much deliverance, and I feel like I'm in a place now where the storm has settled a little bit, and but God's like, no, we just getting started. And when we have time, I would love to share some details, but I'm going to pass it to someone else. But I will just say that, God is real. He has been so good. And I know Christ not because what somebody told me, but because of what I've experienced with him. I know that when I was in my darkest hour, when I was in my darkest moment, it was Jesus who came for me. It was Jesus who held me when I didn't want to live anymore, when I just wanted to end it all. And I got to a point where I just decided to stay in his arms, that I wasn't going to keep getting up and trying to do it myself.
I am glued. I am honored. I am trying not to bust out in tears, Keisha, because your testimony is going to save someone's life. And I know it with every atom of my body that you needed to say that. Somebody needs to hear that. And I'm also grateful that you share that it's not about, it's a relationship, and it's not about a Christmas list, or you run to God like a laundry list, or like you run doing a Target run, or it's not that. It is a constant relationship, and it happens over time. And I absolutely hear you, and I hear your heart and how much you love Christ. And I think someone mentioned, I'm not sure if Carmen said this, it really doesn't matter. It's not even just at work, it's our lives. Like this is like, we're not faking it, right? This is literally who we are, and we're bringing the experience to work because that's what we are, right? For the most part. But this is literally who we are. So I recognize that each of you carry something totally different. Keisha is the person who, if I ever need a Bible study or a conference, I'm going to her because she knows where to send me. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody carries something different, but it is through this refinement and the purification. And then what ends up happening is as you go through those trials, you learn how to treat people who you work with, no matter how ugly, nasty, and crazy, you know, things get. You get refined so that you can operate like that. So let me pass to Carmen and Nate and Audrey to have you guys chime in and share what's on your hearts. Anybody can go.
Oh yeah, well, you know what? For me, the key or the change started to occur once I realized that it's a responsibility. That's the thing that most people who haven't found God, or when they stay away from him, or they don't want to be connected, it's the responsibility. Like any successful relationship, whether it's a marriage or a friendship, it's a responsibility that comes with that. You can't just say, well, today I'm going to be Shelly's friend, then tomorrow I forgot Shelly's birthday. It's a responsibility. As your friend, it's my responsibility to remember, or I should remember, your birthdays and your anniversaries. And when I talk to you, to not just come to you with a target list.
Yeah.
So being a man of God, it means that I have to be responsible to make sure that I pray for not just the things that I want, the new car, a house and a successful job, or the baddie on my arm. I should be praying for forgiveness, not just for people to forgive me, but for that I can forgive other people. And that's the tone that you have to set. And so, like, because I have 2 daughters, that's important that they see how my father moves, because as my father moves, that's how I move. So in order for them to find the right man in their life, I do things based upon biblical principles. I treat them a certain way. I speak to them a certain way. I try to make sure that if I'm out of pocket with them and he sets that on my heart, like, Nate, you know you was wrong. You need to go back and apologize to your daughter. And so we have to have those conversations, because again, it is a responsibility that God has given me as the man to say, you're going to set the physical tone for these ladies in your life. And so acceptance of that responsibility is the key for everything.
Wow. Thank you for that. How about you, Audrey or Carmen?
Well, I was just, sitting here thinking about, all that's been said so far. And one of the things that I'm really grateful for is God has given me, a spirit of just being, people always say, Audrey's just very quiet. I'm quiet because the Lord allows me to see, listen what's going on around me, so then he can guide me and direct me on what I need to say and when I need to say it. So I try not to just mouth off, because if I mouth off, it's going to be Audrey speaking. But if I allow the Holy Spirit to use me, then I say what the Lord wants me to say at the right time. And, sometimes it might take me a day to think about what happened yesterday. But I'm grateful for the fact that he has given me that so that I can then speak. And again, it doesn't even have to be anything about the Bible. It's just direction at work, just guidance, just looking at the people that are in my group or in the group that I work with and how things are going, and know that they're wrong, right? And taking that time to be able to lay out the plan that the Lord has put in my heart and present that and get the right people on board with what the Lord has said. It's not Audrey, because I may have done something totally different, but it allows me to just write everything down and present it in a manner where God's like, don't worry about it. You just do what I ask you to do, and you present it, and I got you covered. And it's so funny. I hear a lot of people talk about, and we've had these conversations.
Yeah.
I've been so blessed in that I got laid off to Lexus, not once, but twice. And I'm a boomerang. Boomerang is when they let you go and they realize they really need you and they call you back.
Yeah.
And when they call you back, guess what? I mean, I was hurt, devastated. Can I tell you, I was devastated the second time because I didn't even get to go into the office. It was over the phone. So I was broken to the point where it affected my family. It affected me being a wife. It affected me being a mother. And it took only God to bring me out of that, because you feel like you've given everything, and the Lord is like, I didn't tell you to give everything to them. You was to give everything to me, because I put you there. They didn't put you there. And it wasn't until it took 2 years. It took 2 years for me to get myself together. And it was God working on me so that I could, when they called me back, it was his time. It gave me that time, gave me that chance for me to get back where I needed to be with him. So therefore, when he called me back, different position, and they were like, we need you back, and we're going to create this position for you. I went back, and they realized, even me going back, they weren't paying me enough money, right? I was like, I'm going back, Lord, but something got to happen, right? And it did. It did. And it all worked out where, I got the position that I needed, that he wanted me to have. And I got the money that he wanted me to have. But all of that to say, sometimes I was listening to Jake on Sunday, and he was talking about God snatching you out. But God snatched me out because I got too into myself when I was at the position the first time. I was big director, this, that, and the other, right? No, he snatched me out. He snatched me out, and he humbled me. And he, made me a better wife and a better mom, because that was the important thing, because my son was young, and the Lord's like, I've been so career focused that I didn't know what it meant to be a mother. So he pulled me out of that so that I could spend time with my child when he needed me, dropping him off to daycare, watching him grow up. And it was the most important time of my child's life. And, it made me a better mom, and a better one, because now we can grow together. So sometimes I'm saying all that to say, sometimes if you get too big for your britches, the Lord will snatch you out. He will snatch you out, and he will build you up to where he wants you to be. So then, when you're making, one step, he's making two. And, it's a reminder that you don't do this on your own. Every day you gotta, when you wake up, you just, all right, Lord, remove me out of the way. You go forward, because I can't do it without him. I can't do it without him.
Wow. That is, thank you. I can't, I'm at a loss for words. You said so much, and there are so many moms that are facing this same situation, that toss in between showing up for your kids and showing up for the job that you desire, not necessarily the right one. And that is so hard. And then when he yanks us out, learning that lesson, and then being able to rebound what you did, you overcame that, and you did, and now you're in a much better position. And as a mom, to just, it's bringing back days when I was choosing work over my daughter. I did it so many years, so many times, and it's just bringing all those memories back. So let me throw to Carmen, and then I want to ask you guys, what would you say, because we're on LinkedIn, at least I'm on LinkedIn streets all the time, and y'all see these reports about job losses, and I was on there earlier today, and there were a couple other large companies and numbers like 5,000 cuts, 10,000 here, and so there's a lot of people who are dealing with job loss right now, and they may be people who don't know God, right? So what advice or what encouragement can we give to those folks? And again, for those who are on the live, most of our people watch the replay and listen to our podcast. So what can you share with them? And then Carmen, before we answer that, I want to just make sure you got a chance to share what's on your heart as well.
So for me, we ask, what does faith at work looks like, and we talk about praying and talking about God. But Audrey kind of already touched on it. Sometimes faith at work looks like you being faithful at work.
Yes.
Right. So for me, a long time when I was at work, I walked in the ways of work. That was my expectation. Like I said before, I'm at work. Right. So if such and such has the same skill set, why are they getting promoted? I was doing the comparison thing and justifying the comparison thing because it was work. Right? Like at home, I know I'm not supposed to compare, right? At church, she sings soprano, I sing alto. I'm not supposed to compare. But at work, I was walking in that worldly thought because I'm at work. So why are these things happening to everybody else, but they're not happening to me? Right? So, God finally showed me you have to walk in that faith as you would a personal issue, the same way you would as a work issue. So he finally showed me, don't worry about her getting promoted. Don't worry about him getting promoted, because him getting promoted is not what you're going to look like when you get to that level. So quit comparing yourself to what this person is doing and what that person is doing, because even though it may be the same title, your purpose is going to look different in that title.
Come on now.
Ready, right?
Yes.
That's what he was telling me. You're not. He was telling me, I didn't say you weren't capable. I said you weren't ready for what I have for you and what the purpose I have for you to walk in that role, because it's bigger than what the job wants for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a purpose for you in this role. So you're not ready. So I need you to sit your butt down, learn the lessons that you need to learn, because when you finally elevate, I'm going to get all the glory in all of that. Right. So you are doing this for me, not because Katie and Karen and Kathy and everybody else is already at that level. And you're like, but I'm better than Katie and Kathy and Karen. Right. Like you get into that worldly thought, and we have to show up at work with that same faith as if we were dealing with our marriage or our children or, the same thing. We have to walk that walk. We can't forget that God put us in that spot for a reason and quit worrying about everybody else. So, and really quick about the
so the layoffs.
Jobs.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I'm gonna be real quick. I lost my first marriage. I had 3 kids. I was doing everything on my own. I lost my first job. I had got to the point where I had $2 in my pocket and I had 3 babies to take care of. And I finally got on my knees that night and I said, Lord, you know what? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. There's nothing else I can do. So if you want me to get my babies and load my car and live on the street, that's exactly what I'm about to do. I'm gonna tell you, I had $2.11 in my pocket. And back then, I'm dating myself, a roll of turkey sausage was $1 and a box of rice was $1. So we keep vegetables, we keep vegetables in the house. So I went to the store, I bought me some turkey, I bought me some rice, I put some vegetables in together. And that next morning I got a call from my current job today.
Wow.
The very next morning, because I said, God, I am going to deliver newspapers. I'm calling the newspaper people tomorrow. I'm going to deliver newspapers. I will go work at McDonald's. You tell me what you want me to do. And the next day I got a call.
Wow.
So for all of those people out there that don't know what their next steps are, if you don't know the Lord, you better get it known today.
I tell you what, I have a similar story because I've been laid off a couple times. Been through some layoffs, and I can remember when my baby, he's 14. He's about to start high school tomorrow. School starts tomorrow. And but when he was a baby, I was working at this small company. I was an operations manager at a staffing firm, and I went on maternity leave, right? And I'm thinking everything's all good. I come back from maternity leave, I'm ready to work, and it just seemed like there's some funny energy in the air. And so I'm there for about a week, and I get laid off. And I just came back, and I have my baby at home, and it's like, this is what my prayer to God. I was like, Lord, I got 2 degrees and I am more than capable of working and getting a job. I said, but if you want me to go get in that line, I will be in that line on Monday. I said, don't play with me, Lord. I just got real with God. I said, listen, I don't want to be here anyway. I will sit at home. And I will be that if that's what you want. But I am more than capable of working, Lord. So I said, this is you tell me, okay? And I'm his child, so he's like, oh
yeah.
She talking crazy to me, but I'm gonna help her. And I tell you what, they gave me 30 days notice. My last day on that job was a Friday. I started my new job on the Monday, making $20,000 than I was making at that job. And I was like, Lord, amen. But let me tell you, I worked at that job for about 2.5 years before they laid me off. And I was like, Lord, here we are again. And I ended up starting, that was the job I had before I came to Lexus. And I said, here we are again, Lord. And I went there in LexisNexis. When I tell you, they were paying me some pennies on the dollar, okay? For this job, it was a contract position. I was like, I go to Walmart for this. This is crazy. But I knew LexisNexis. I knew the company because I used to use it in school. I went to school for communication, so we used the tools in college. And I said, this is a great company. Maybe I can come here and I can, find a position.
Yeah.
And I did. And I did find a position, and it wasn't paying what I was used to, salary that I was used to making. But I tell you what, I stuck with it. I went back to school on their dime. I went and got my master's degree, and I stuck with it. And now my salary has exceeded what it was before. And I tell you, God has been so faithful. And it was not an easy journey. It wasn't like boom, boom, boom. It was some blood, sweat, tears. It was some truth in my face. It took some not getting promotions, not getting roles that I knew I was qualified for, that I needed, that it wasn't because I wasn't qualified or I couldn't do the job. It was because, Keisha, you need to work on how you dealing with people, because I'm like, I'm coming to work and I'm doing the job and we're gonna get this done, and we could be friends later. But I had to check myself on that, because relationships mean everything at work. You know what I'm saying? And I may have been, a little harsh, or I may not have been as forgiving, because I think I'm being excellent. I think I'm having a high standard, where when you have people reporting to you and they make a mistake and you don't give them the grace, because I wasn't giving myself the grace. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And I had to learn that. Remember when I said I moved to Georgia carrying a lot of baggage? I had to let go of some things because it was affecting my career. It's affecting myself as a person. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you're carrying all that baggage, you don't want to deal with people. People are the enemy. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes we can just, like, I know for myself, drown ourselves in the work and forget about the people. And I had to come up, and I tell you one thing, the relationships that you have with the people who really care about you, when you open yourself up, are so worth the little petty stuff for the people who are your enemy, or people that don't like you, or people that are not going to accept you for being your true self. The richness of the relationships you have when you open yourself up with the people who do accept you in your authenticity far outweigh all that other stuff You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
the people, your haters and everything, it's worth it. It is worth it to feel that, to have the richness in those relationships. And I couldn't do it without Christ. He is the healer of all things. And when I pray, I don't pray. I want things. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't want things, but prayer for me is healing. It is healing. It is a daily practice. Because when I was at rock bottom, I said, Lord, what do you want from me? Because I'm going to God and I'm praying and I can't open my mouth because I have so much pain inside and I can't even talk to God because I'm so angry and I'm so mad and I have so much pain inside. But I don't want to admit that I'm angry because I don't like that word. I don't like being a Black woman and labeling myself as
right.
I had to admit, and I said, God told me, he said, I want you to open up your mouth and talk to me. And I was just at the point where, God, I'll do whatever you say. And when I started praying to him and I started opening up my mouth, not just coming to him in meditation, but just really opening up my mouth and pouring out to him every day we have an appointment, and things started to change. I just had so much healing. And now it's like, Lord, where is my prayer closet? I can't wait to get to my prayer closet. If I don't do nothing else, I'll be like, God, we got some things we need to discuss today. I got them in there. I got my journal, everything. And it's like you said, it's a relationship. It's a relationship with God. And he's always there. He is always there when we need him. The prayer closet is always open. I don't have to make an appointment. I don't have to pay $1,000 for a session with God.
Exactly. There's no seed needed.
Right.
No
And
seed needed.
it's just, I just am just in love with the Lord. I can't, and I'm not perfect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I am not a perfect person by any means, but I know who God is in my life. And I know that he is always working on me. And I know he's brought me such a long way. He has brought me such a long way. Like, just delivered me from so much that I can't even, and when I think I'm just delivered, something else comes out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just
always pruning
journey.
Yep,
Yeah. It's right. A journey. And I'm just so grateful and so appreciative. I really am.
Wow. April, were you gonna say something?
Well, I had a question for you all, off of what Keisha was saying when we're on the other subject. But first, just hearing just your testimony about work, Keisha, and Carmen's as well. And I have a similar story as well, that it's like it can be only but God that brings you out of those situations, right? Where you don't have anything, he comes back. But the question I had, Keisha, you said that you felt God's presence, right? Like when you start, going to church with grandma. And I wanted to ask you all, what does God's presence feel like to you all individually?
Gosh. Well, I'll let somebody else start.
It's amazing. It's okay. Sometimes it's scary. I grew up for a very, very long time. Angels have followed me, always. So I've always had encounters. I didn't really understand what it meant for a long time. I'm Jamaican, so in our culture, it's not really shocking. Like in the U.S., for some reason, people believe more demons than angels exist. But it's just not the case. But angels have always been around me, always followed me. I've always had encounter, always had a connection there. I knew it was the Lord. And so there are times when it's scary. Like it's scary because you're not, like, I'll be in deep worship or prayer. I have two things I'll share with you. One experience I had last year. I was in my house. We have a library. I was in the library. I was in deep, like on the knee worship, crying out. And I was asking the Lord to show me what was on his heart, because I felt like I wasn't holding up my part of the bargain, because I had my list. And then I realized that, like, he didn't care about my list. And so I was praying for days, like, just show me what's on your heart. And then what he showed me crippled me. I mean, I was floor down, but I felt the presence in my library, and I knew exactly what it was. I also am very blessed to have women who've been placed in my life who confirm things to me, because sometimes I think I'm crazy. Audrey, you won't believe what just happened, right? So I have confirmation around me. So that was one, and it was scary. And there's been times I get dreams. I get a lot of dreams, but I've figured out how to understand and receive. And these are things I ask for, signs and wonders. So when I get them, I'm just, okay, I know where it came from. So the short answer is, it's amazing. But I think a lot of times people miss the presence of God because it's not always like that kind of an encounter. Sometimes it's in the softest of things. Sometimes it's, sometimes it's just a breath, and you just know. If you're in the spirit, you absolutely know when the Holy Spirit is involved, and there's all these confirmations, so you don't think you're crazy or you're losing it. But it's amazing. It's amazing. And it's open to everybody. I'm not special. I tell people all the time, just a happy vessel. I'm broken and I'm chipped, but I'm a happy vessel. So it's not relegated just to me. You don't have to seed money to get it. It's free. So I'll toss to somebody else.
For me, it's very calming. It's a sense of serenity, because I am naturally high strung. So I always feel like I'm tense about everything. When something's occurring, I'm easily excited. So my blood pressure runs high, my hands sweat. My motor's always running. But when I'm in those spaces of confusion and I stop and God just kind of slows me down, it's almost like when you're running fast and then you come to a stop and you feel the wind just kind of,
yes,
that's what it feels like. And when I'm in that space, I can feel his presence, because I can hear my heartbeat slowing down, and I feel that presence. And it's like, okay, Nathan, just relax. You worrying about a bill, you worrying about this, you stressing about that, you worrying about 1,001 things, and all I need you to do is just look me dead in the eye and hear what I'm saying to you. Just relax. Everything that you need, you've already got it. I've given you every tool you need. You just need to slow down, open your hands, and realize that it's already there. And so, like, as we're talking about the pressures of being at work, and it's like, one of my aunts told me, she says, it's not about who you work for, it's whom you belong to.
Come on now.
That's the key to your entire process, because worrying about a job, and she's like, okay, companies let you go. They change directions. They may come in and say, you know what? Everybody who's wearing black shirts, we're letting you go today. With Georgia being a right to work state, there's nothing I can do. Let me put on a blue shirt. It doesn't matter. They're going to say, this is the direction that we're going in.
Yeah.
But just like I found one job, I lost my job. The last job I had, I lost it in the midst of a divorce. So I'm going through a divorce. I lose my job. And then my youngest daughter, her mother tells me, well, she's got to come live with you now. So all this is happening at the same time. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah. I am 48 years old, or whatever the age was. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with all of this? And he's like, dude, you doing like Jonah right now. You acting just like Jonah. I need you to get out of the belly of the beast and just stand still. And everything, the part-time job I was working at, it was through a temp agency. A friend of mine worked at the company I work for now. I said, hey man, I'm looking for a job. He was like, you know what? Send me your resume. He says, we're going to get you an interview on Wednesday. I came in on Wednesday. They called me back. He said on Thursday, he said, I don't know what you said in that interview, but they're going to offer you a position on Friday. Now at the time, the company was hiring temp to perm. Everybody was coming in was temp to perm. And when I got hired, I didn't go temp to perm. I came in straight permanent. And the manager was like, how did you go permanent? I don't know. I just got hired. So because he was like, you should be filling out the form for your hours through the temp agency, and I was like, I don't work for that company. I work here. And the manager who hired me was like, your benefits and everything starts on this day. And everything started the day everything kicked in, and I was like, oh. And again, that phrase that it's not who you work for, it's whom you belong to. And I keep that with me here and here. And like I said, when I start stressing, I feel his presence, because everything starts slowing down, and I see it starting to occur, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it's all good. And that's that feeling for me. It's a feeling of serenity and just being at peace with, like, you know what? If this is the direction that man is taking me in, that's fine, because God is taking me in a totally different direction. I'm not supposed to be in this position anymore. I'm supposed to be here because I am connected to the most powerful thing in this world. I don't have just a super life. I have a supernatural life, and that's important.
Yeah.
So that's how, for me, April, that's kind of how it all works inside of here.
Go ahead, Carmen.
For me, it's just two things, April: peace and confirmation. I'm starting to learn how to listen. Like you say, how do you know it's God speaking to you? The one thing that I learned, that if it follows his will, that's one indication, right? Like if it follows his word, if it follows his will, that's him, because his word is what speaks to us. But it's peace and confirmation. Like I got in an accident on the highway. I was with my daughter, with my children, and I thought that somebody was trying to sideswipe me. We on a busy highway, and I'm thinking this car is rolling right up on me, right? So I'm in the fast lane with the median, and I just veer, and all of a sudden the car just starts spinning across the median to the other side of the highway, and then I go through a fence. Not even 15 minutes later, a police officer comes up to the car, and he said, "Ma'am, I don't even know, but I just happened." He was on the same side of the highway as I was, going this way. And he just said, "I just happened to look in my rearview mirror and saw you spinning across the road." That was confirmation, right? Like confirmation. And then when you talk about dreams, I'm always the kind of person who's like, I'm not good enough for God to use me the way he uses other people, right? That's why I said I'm still on milk when it comes to my purpose. But my mother passed away of cancer. And when I was younger, I didn't even think about it. When I was younger, I had a dream that my mother died on a roller coaster, and then completely forgot about the dream, right? Like never thought about it ever again. I was probably like 10 years old, and I had this dream, and I'm like, I'm not telling my mother that dream, right? Like, and completely forgot about it. God erased it from my memory for a while. And then when she passed away, we found out she had cancer in May. She died in July. And my family was flying to Houston and going to Georgia, and we were just all over the place. And in that moment, like Shelly said, that still quiet voice, God said, "I showed you this."
Yeah.
Her journey with cancer was a roller coaster ride. She passed, that was my dream. And I don't think he showed me that to give me insight about my mother. I think he showed me that to give me insight that I need to start paying attention.
That's right.
To my dreams.
That's right.
Right. And I needed something that impactful to get, he needed to do something that impactful to get my attention. So for me, it's like peace and confirmation.
Yeah. That's powerful.
Yeah, for me, it's just calming. I was telling Shelly yesterday, God was just been working, just doing a lot in my life, and not necessarily all good stuff, right? But it's good for me, and so it's just clean up and organizing and things like that, so that I can hear what he has to say to me. And so it's just really calming. Yesterday, I felt his presence so powerful. I was walking around my house like this, like in awe, because his presence was so real. It was so real, and I felt speechless. because it was just so powerful and so calming. And the day went by, I was like, normally it's like, ooh, Lord, I hope this day hurry up. Yesterday, the day went so fast, and I'm telling you, I went through my entire house and prayed through my entire house. I closed every time I prayed in a room, because that's how his presence was. Every time I prayed in a room, I closed the door. My husband and my son came home and they were like, why are all the doors closed? I said, because I went through every room in the house and I prayed. And my son, he's such a little smarty, right? He was like, did you lock yourself in there? I said, nope. I said, I prayed and kicked everything out. Then I opened the front door and kicked everything out the front door. He was like, you gotta be, I was like, no. When you go in your room tonight, you're gonna sleep like a baby. It's just a calming for me. And some, like I said, for yesterday, it was just an awe because it was so powerful. And, it doesn't happen like that all the time, but I definitely we were there yesterday. And, whenever I start to feel stress, I'm kind of like Nate, I'm pretty high strung. And I can get anxiety if I don't check myself. So I have to just kind of, sit down and pray and ask God to help me. And he, typically does. But it's really a calming for me when I'm in God's presence.
Thank you for sharing that. So we're gonna have Keisha, and then I'm gonna walk us through our close. How about you, Keisha?
Well, sometimes God's presence is so supernatural. I don't even know how to put it into words. You just feel an energy around you, and you're not alone. I remember the first time I was able to speak in tongues, or I got filled with the Spirit. It was one of those things. I didn't even know what was happening to me. I had gone to a new member meeting at church and came home, and I was listening to some worship music, and then something just started pouring out of me. And now I can't shut up, so many years ago, and it has transcended, but it's just a supernatural experience. Sometimes I just feel his protection. God speaks to me through my intuition. Like I can literally hear God speaking to me. I don't have a lot of dreams. And when I do dream, I don't remember them. So sometimes God speaks through people through their dreams. And I'm always like, oh, tell me about your dreams. Because God doesn't talk to me that way, but he talks to us in different ways. Because I hear people say, oh my gosh, I can't hear from God, or God doesn't speak to me.
I hear all the time.
I'm like, I heard you the first time. Okay, I'm doing it. I'm going. But he speaks to us in different ways, and we just have to embrace our gifts. It's just a supernatural experience, I would say.
I love it. This was so amazing. I think we're going to have to come back at the top of the new year and kick us off with another round. And we can't see how many people were in LinkedIn. I just saw the comment. Those numbers don't show up, and we can't see who's on the Parade Deck Live TV. So, we can't, but whoever's watching this, like I said, whether the live or the replay, I absolutely believe in my heart of hearts that this will bless you. For anybody who's going through anything, just know that you're not alone. And if you have nobody else, there are at least 7 people, 8 people on this side of the coin who are standing in agreement that all things are working together for your good. I am so honored. Thank y'all so much for doing this, for being honest and open and putting your hearts out there. This is tough. This is not something that everybody does. People say authentic, but they really don't mean it. Okay. We mean it. We absolutely mean it. And so, so we're going to tell everybody goodbye. And if you guys could just hang out in our back room and, while we run the closeout. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Shelly.
Thank you, Shelly.